In this video, I'm going to show you the different machines that I've acquired and explain what we're going to be doing with them and how they're going to help me grow my letterpress business. Please excuse the mess. I really need to get that machine done so that I can start making bulk stock for when my store opens. And I can kind of find everything that I need, and the time that it will take to clean it up is not worth it right now, especially considering everything's going to be moved very shortly. This was one of the first letterpress machines I purchased, a Foolscap 1920s Arab printing press. I'm taking her to my shop and she'll be my demonstration press. This press is a 1920s Arab press. It is a crown folio, so it's a little bit larger. One day I'll get around to restoring it, and it's going to be the press I have in my workshop. This press is considered to be one of the best presses in the world. It was invented in the late 19th century by a guy named Josiah, and it had a bunch of new improvements that weren't on presses before then, such as when the table opens, it actually dwells. So as it opens up, it holds the open position and then it goes closed. And this was in contrast to some earlier presses which just snapped together and there was no dwell time, so you didn't have time to put the paper in as much. So it's better for your fingers. One of the many cool innovations on this press was the ability on the engagement lever. You could open this bolt up and turn this knob, and it increases or decreases the impression strength that will be applied. Apparently, because not much was thought of back in the day, another brand new invention on this machine is these leather straps, which you can pack paper underneath, and it makes it much easier to align the ink roller to the type height. The reason the parts of the machines are numbered is that originally they were flat packed, a bit like IKEA furniture. The other cool thing about these presses is it's a parallel platen, so as the platen comes to close against the bed, it moves parallel to the bed. It means as you pack it with paper, you don't have to worry about the bottom touching before the top, so you get an even impression. Once the paper stock has been cut on the bigger guillotine, here are two of the guillotines I used to trim my paper stock down. This one here I picked up in Perth. It is a T.C Thompson Son No. 1 gem, and it was made in Manchester. While this is quite a good guillotine, I do have one complaint about it. This gap here is quite large. It means if I want to cut any small pieces of paper, I can't square it up to both sides. Eventually I'm going to have to fabricate something up to extend this guard all the way across so it touches this edge so that I can use the nice older machinery. This is a slightly newer guillotine, it's electric. It was made in Western Germany, so it can't be that new, which is good. Don't want anything that's too new. The reason I have this is twofold. One, it helps me cut the really small stuff because the guard goes nearly to the edge. And secondly, the nicer guillotine is going to the shop to be my shop model, so I want a guillotine in my workshop to cut down smaller stock. This is the little mini bench press that I managed to pick up. As you can see, it's a rather small little press. It's 8 by 11 inches. It's going to be at my shop so that people can print their I printed this cards, which is really exciting. This was a really cool find. It came from the same place that I got the little hand press, and because the hand press had to be shipped across the country on a pallet, and this fitted on the pallet, and it was incredibly cheap, I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. Someone has Frankensteined an old style Chandler and Price press into a foiling press. It does not work, and that doesn't matter because I'm going to use this as the base of making my own foiling press, which is really cool. This is one of the presses I'm the most excited to have found. It is a Littlejohn No. 2 proof press. It has a plate size of 25 by 18 inches. Once I finish my current Windmill, this is the next press I am going to be restoring. I don't like doing woodworking, but I do like CNC machines. So my plan is to get a CNC router and route out the wooden blocks so I can do block printing. But before that can happen, I'll probably just do it with photopolymer plates, but I can make nice big posters, which is excellent. It is based upon the Vandercook SP15, which is an American brand. Now this one has an electrical inking unit, so the ink rollers will move side to side and distribute the ink by themselves. It does look like the entire inking unit and print unit are completely intact, and the only things that seem to be missing are the in-feed and out-feed tables and these drawer fronts down here. But that's something that we can make up, so it's not too bad, and we can pretty much fabricate everything else relatively easily. If I can give you one tip, it's to buy things that were made in Western Germany. They are such a solid piece of metal. You can just grind off the rust and it's back to nearly working condition. I've just got to fix up the electricals and we will be good to go. As you can see, any flat surface in a workshop gets stuff just put on top of it. It's a full mill size guillotine with a 33-inch cutting width, so I can grab my mill, so I can grab paper sheets directly from the mill and chuck them in here. While this guillotine is massive, the guard goes nearly to the edge, so you can actually cut really small pieces of paper with it. I have some really exciting things I want to do with this guillotine. I want to throw some stepper motors onto it and make a little control system so that, just like the modern guillotines, I can type in the distance that I need it to cut to. Newer guillotines are slightly safer and they use a 2-pressure control system. So when you engage the hydraulics, it just touches the paper gently, because sometimes you need to get your hands near it just so you can like square out the paper. And then when you activate the blade, it engages a higher pressure hydraulic clamping force, and that's when your hands are completely out of the way. Also, a cool feature that the modern machines have that this one doesn't is they have an air table, which means they drill holes every so often in the table and you feed up air underneath it and allows the sheets to hover around. So when I get my CNC machine, I'm going to make myself an air table, which would be really cool. I think it's going to be a pretty cool project to embark upon, and I'd much rather get one of these up to modern standards than buy a completely brand new machine, because it's got much more soul. This is one of my 2 Heidelberg windmills that I picked up from Melbourne. So even with shipping, they were incredibly cheap. And I see in there, they're incredibly dirty, which is why I like to clean my machines and paint them up before I get them and then look after them so that they'll all be really nice. The windmills can do up to 5,000 impressions an hour, which is insane, because the hand-fed presses, you can do 1,200 impressions an hour if you are running them with a motor. Unlike the letterpress machines, which have a parallel action, as it closes, it's hinging on the base, and it only closes up with the bed parallel as it reaches the apex of the stroke. This makes it slightly harder to pack, because you've got to take into account that as you build it out, you're actually making the bottom closer than the top. So there's a certain thickness of packing that you need to make this perform perfectly. Now we come to the other windmill, which is slowly being put back together. I did not make this into parts, and it was completely disassembled, and it is now currently being reassembled. And so far it works. You can see the internals of the oiling system. There are 15 oiling channels, and having a pull oiling system gets oil to all the hard to reach internal places. There are still numerous places you have to oil on the outside of the machine, but this makes it a little bit easier. You can see down in here it's nice and clean, and I'll make sure I clean it every week so it never gets as gunky as when I purchased it. I completely disassembled the air control system, so all of the buttons operate very easily and very smoothly. And it's no longer a red ball, but a copper ball. But so far, all good. I've only broken a couple of things and I've managed to repair them, and that will not happen on the next one. I am slowly running out of space. I managed to pick up this machine in Perth. It's a very obscure machine. It's a T.C. Thompson Son Auto Platen. It's kind of a knockoff of the Heidelberg, and it was made in England. While the English are good at a great many things, they're not that great at engineering. So it's interesting to have, and I do want to bring it up to good working order, but it is not as good as a windmill. As you can see, the condition is not quite as good as the windmill, so it's going to take quite a bit to get it into working order. Also, the oiling system is not as good. It's kind of got this wick system, which I'm sure works okay, but not great. For some unknown reason, the speed adjustment lever is on the back of the machine. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you found that this video interesting, seeing the different pieces of machinery that I have. And if you want to start building up a collection of your own machinery, whether it be metalworking, woodworking, letterpress, just not in Perth, because that's mine, keep looking on Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, and eventually something will come up. If you do find something that's not top notch, it doesn't mean the machine will not work. It might just mean it's been sitting out in the shed, the person's retired, they got too old. So if you do find some good deals, make sure that the basic functionality is there, but you can fix them up, and it will allow you to build up a big collection of equipment for a very good price. Pro tip, if you're worried about what your partner's gonna think, get it to your house, put it on the floor. This weighs about 1.5 tons. They're not gonna be able to get rid of it. They might be annoyed at you for a couple of weeks, but when they get over it, you'll still have your machine because they won't be able to move it. Win-win.